455 people have joined. So 455 people have joined. That's a pretty good number, and we can start. There are also people watching this show on Facebook live streaming in Anandabajar Patrika Education, abpeducation.com, FB Live, and also FB Live in FB Live of Adamas University as well, along with the YouTube live streaming on Adamas University's YouTube channel. Apart from Zoom, and 460 people are 65. As we speak, 465 are on the Zoom. We know all that we are discussing about an extraordinary issue, an issue that has become very significant, particularly in the post-COVID times. I hope I am completely visible to everyone and also audible. Dr. Rudra Shah, am I audible clearly?
Yes, sir, completely. Both visual and
thank you. And Ranabrato, can every speaker please highlight or make me the co-host, then I can highlight according to what is required. Yes, we move ahead. This particular program, let me first tell that this particular program is titled Skill Development and Career Opportunity in Post-Pandemic India, focus on life sciences and biotechnology, or allied sectors, allied sectors of life sciences. So, and this program, I must first begin by telling, would not have been possible at all but for a very dedicated young teacher, named Dr. Manojit Devnath. He is the head of the Department of Botany in Panskura Banamali College Autonomous. Thanks to him and then many others, today these ladies and gentlemen who are online can watch this program, can interact, can participate. So this is possible because Dr. Manojit Devnath, with the support of Life Science Skills Development Council, that is LSSDC, Skill India, NSDC together, and with the cluster head, Mr. Aniruddha, who is the cluster head for Eastern India and Northeast India region of Life Sciences sector in the Skills Development Council, they together actually conceptualized and approached Adamas University. I am always personally in favor of doing such things which bring value to young people. That's how Adamas University, I as the Pro Vice Chancellor and my Honorable Dean of the School of Life Science and Biotech, Dr. Rudra Shah, who is there in the program, together we then decided to go ahead with the program. We are really thankful to our Chief Patron, Mr. Ranjit Madan, Chief Executive Officer and Joint Apprenticeship Advisor, Life Science Sector Skill Development Council. Mr. Madan, who is a towering personality in the sector, in this domain, he is present here. We'll be listening to him. We are also thankful to some industry friends. Mr. Siddharth Basu, Site HR Head, Human Resource Head in Sikkim of Sun Pharma. We know Sun Pharma is one of the leading pharmaceutical companies of India. He is also there. And Dr. Supratim Basu, Team Leader and Product Commercialization Manager, Innate Immunity LLC, Colorado, USA. He is joining us from Colorado, USA. And I'm very happy to bring the only lady speaker in this program, and I'm going to listen to her a second time in my life, because earlier I had also heard her once more. Professor Paramita Basu, Department of Pharmaceutical and Biomedical Sciences, Touro College of Pharmacy, New York, USA. This is 3 o'clock in the evening. This must be 5 o'clock in the morning, I suppose, in New York.
Yes, it is. It is.
Paramita Basu and Dr. Supratim Basu to join so early in the morning from your time zone in this program. And thank you once again, our Chief Patron, Mr. Ranjit Madan, and the two gentlemen who actually bringing this program together, Dr. Manojit Devnath, HOD Botany, Panskura Banamali College, and Mr. Aniruddha, Cluster Head, Eastern and Northeastern India Regional. Life Science Sector Skill Development Council. Thank you also, Honorable Principal of Banamali College, Panskura, for his wholehearted support to his HOD for doing this program. Thanks also to the Chancellor and Vice Chancellor of Adamas University for supporting it. And I would be completely failing in my duty at the beginning if I don't thank the leading media organization of East Northeast India and one of the leading in the country, Anandabajar Group. Anandabajar Group for partnering with this, bringing this to you at a larger audience. I'm told more than 1,600 people registered. I can see 505 just now live on this audience. Yes, post-pandemic, the aspects of life science, biotechnology, biochemistry, these have become very significant. And the issue of skill development going beyond merely academic knowledge has also come into light in a big way. And to throw light on all those issues, one round, I'll request all the panelists to speak not more than 6-7 minutes in the first round. And then we take up questions because there will be a huge amount of questions from the audience. I'm told Mr. Aniruddha would be making a PowerPoint presentation. That's good, fine. We can continue with all those things one after another. And to begin this show, we will call a doyen of this industry and our chief patron. First, Mr. Ranjit Madan. Mr. Madan is joining us, I think, from North India, but I don't know which city. He can tell it himself. The Chief Executive Officer and Joint Apprenticeship Advisor of the Life Science Sector Skill Development Council, who is present here. I request Ranjit Madan, sir, to unmute himself and address the gathering. We will go one by one in minimum short discourse, and then we'll take up large number of questions which are expected. I have already got questions from the audience when they were registering, and these questions will be taken up live. I would now request Ranjit Madan sir to come up and speak. And Ranab Brata, please spotlight on Ranjit Madan sir. Over to Mr. Madan.
Good afternoon, everybody, and respectively from different parts of the world, I guess good morning or good evening, as the case may be. It's a pleasure to be here, and my thanks to Panskura Banamali College and Adamas University for inviting me to share my thoughts. Let me begin by talking of perhaps the obvious of India possessing, fortunately, the youngest demographic profile in the world. What it does for the country, as our Honorable Prime Minister put it a couple of years ago, was that it gives India the distinct possibility and propensity to become the skill capital of the world. In fact, ILO, in a recent study, put out that by the year around 2030, whereas the rest of the world, including China, will be deficient to the tune of about 45 million skilled workforce totally, India has the possibility of supplying and meeting entire 45 to 50 million. That, though, requires a mountain to be climbed in terms of skilling the youthful population. Now, when we talk of skilling, we need to be clear about what is it that education has not provided, making for India not being skilled at the present. In fact, whereas countries like Korea have practically every person joining the workforce, 97% of those joining skilled at the point of taking up a career, and all countries including China and the Western world being somewhere between 50 to 97%, India languishes at about 5%. So only 1 in 20 roughly is skilled, has the required practical exposure at the point of taking up a career. So there is indeed a huge mountain that needs to be climbed, a vast challenge to be met. Now, the basic issue is that from the time that the British gave us, in fact, a very good education system, it sadly was completely devoid of any kind of practical exposure, any kind of interface with the industry. So it was a totally supply-led system. What the Skill India movement endeavors to do is to bring about a paradigm shift in terms of converting it into a demand-determined system where it's the industry that defines what is it that is really needed. Because the way things stand, you have students who complete courses, and after their years of toil, 4 years, perhaps even more, and they find that when they join the industry, their worth is not recognized. The industry feels the other way, that they are textbook knowledge driven and with little practical exposure. So 6 months to a year on the average are spent in giving them the required practical exposure. So what skill councils like ours, and we focus on the life sciences sector, have done is to bring about that paradigm shift involving industry, doing so by involving industry at every element of the skilling chain. The start-off point is laying down the standards after doing a skill gap study, which we did for our sector, which revealed that currently the sector has about 900,000 people with about 250 distinct job roles. However, a very skewed distribution with just 60 job roles taking up 90% of the job volume. And in fact, just 20 job roles take up 65% of the job volume. So with industry help, we laid down what are known as national standards of skilling that embed both hard and soft skills required. They embed the practical and the classroom hours to be spent for the specific job roles, the basic minimum qualifications required of the students to take up that specific job role. And all of these are to be found on our website. We have also laid down the curriculum and content for each of these entry-level job roles, which, by the way, are to be found across the various verticals of sales, marketing, quality control, supply chain, manufacturing, etc. So we've laid down curriculum and content, and we have gone beyond by involving industry and academia, because that's the need of the hour. In fact, the bane of the Indian economy in skilling has been the industry-academia disconnect, if I may say so. And I do believe that by and large, the basic issue is that the two have been operating largely in silos. So what our council has been endeavoring to do is to break down those silos and bring about an industry-academia connect. First and foremost, we connected with the industry, as I said, involving them in every element of the skilling chain, which apart from laying down the standards, curriculum, content, was also involving them in the train the trainer programs through supply of master trainers, also in question banks validating the assessment modules that we have in place, in taking up apprentices, in involvement in skilling, including in setting up centers of excellence, and in actual hiring of those certified, whether through the apprenticeship route or otherwise. We then went about involving academia. The favorite stream in this is the Pharmacy Council of India. So we brought on board the Pharmacy Council, Dr. Suresh, who is a very well-known entity. And then to bring the academia and industry one step closer, we have now been able to get the Pharmacy Council of India to change their curriculum starting this academic year, whereby our skilling modules for each of the 2025 major job roles, they will be embedded in their final year of the B Pharma. And the pharmacy students will be able to take these up as electives with the scores to count towards their overall score. And the students in pharmacy will be encouraged to take up apprenticeship. And we would ideally like all colleges and institutions around the country that are keen to join hands with us to strengthen this sector to approach us, and we will be happy to likewise guide them through our academia support initiative. And my colleague who's here, Anirudh, he will be happy to give further details. Now, over the past 5 to 6 years, what have we achieved through what I have said? Well, we have certified close to 30,000 people across the major job roles. We have been able to trigger through the apprenticeship catalyzation program that we were interested with. Just in about a year and a half since it was interested, catalyzed some 12,000 apprenticeship contracts, onboarded some 300 organizations in life sciences sector to take up these apprentices. Our placement rate is today upwards of 70%. In the skilling initiative, we boast of the highest salary and the highest average salary given to students placed. Now, what we have found is basically the two key challenges are really something to do with the mindset of students. First is the mindset about practical exposure, about vocational education. As I said, we took on the education system from the Brits about 60, 70 years ago. It was devoid of any practical exposure. The amazing part is that the Brits moved on, and today they have a great blend of practical exposure and classroom teaching. And they've moved on. We did not. And we are a far cry from successful countries. Classic example is Germany. Apprenticeship is one of the foremost ways of giving practical exposure to students. Germany, which has 1/15 India's population, has 30 lakh apprentices at any point of time. India, despite the fact that we promulgated the Apprenticeship Act in 61, has, despite having 15 times Germany's population, 1/15 the size in terms of number of apprentices at about 2 to 2.5 lakhs. Such is the divide, such is the chasm that we need to cover. That's the first part. The second part is mobility. Now, life sciences sector, which is pharma, biopharma, and contract research, is a very clustered sector. 90% of the activity is in 12 locations, which fortunately include Bengal and include Sikkim. But it is clustered. So students around the country need to be prepared to move where the jobs are, because let's keep one thing very clear and in mind is that this is a manufacturing sector. So the opportunities, bulk of them technical, in manufacturing, quality control, etc., have to be found where the manufacturing is. And that, as I said, is in 12 locations. So how often have we not found that students who have been trained or are desirous of taking up meaningful opportunities in the sector, but they need or want to do it in their state? And sometimes that's not possible. In fact, quite often it's not possible because there are, as I said, 12 key locations. It's of course different case in the sales and marketing, which are a pan-India required sort of vertical. Now, to conclude, I would like to say that this is one of the noblest professions. So for the students, I don't think that apart from healthcare and life sciences, there can be a more noble profession because it involves human life. In fact, very proudly, the Indian life sciences sector today can proudly state that India is the pharmacy to the world. All of you may have heard about it. India exports to some 250 countries around the world. More than 50% of the revenue of the sector of around $41 billion is derived from exports. So we deal not just with human beings in India, we deal with human life. It's one of the 5 highest priority sectors as put out by Niti Aayog. It's been growing at double-digit rates. So what can be a better opportunity for the student community and indeed for the academia? On top of it, we have wonderful opportunities triggered through Ayushman Bharat, which triggers off insurance and therefore greater reach for healthcare and therefore for life sciences sector expansion. Atmanirbhar Bharat gives yet greater opportunities because one of the areas in life sciences, namely the active pharmaceutical ingredients or APIs, that is then set for great growth because it's been reliant on China, 70% being imported largely from China. And now there is huge thrust to make that self-reliant. And that will obviously throw over opportunities for the students keen on taking up opportunities in this space. As I said, in the East, Sikkim and Bengal are very much part of those clusters. So that should infuse people coming from that part of our wonderful nation. And finally, and most importantly, this current pandemic has thrown this sector right up front in the eye of the storm. It's our organizations that are very much in the forefront, also in the race for vaccines. And by the way, India has 70% vaccine capacity. So regardless of who discovers the vaccines, India is going to be a major player in the production of these vaccines so that people around the world can get it. And that, apart from that, the various medicines which are already available and will be made available for reducing the impact of the pandemic. There again, the Indian pharmaceutical sector is very much in the forefront. And it's the sector that's truly one of the most sort of least impacted by the pandemic. Look around us, aviation, hospitality, retail, and such like. They are hugely dented. And it's going to take a while before they can bounce back. But our sector, fortunately, has opportunities there available and will continue to be available as we go along. So it's a wonderful sector for the students and for the academia connected with it. And with those words, I wish all the students and all of academia involved in this sector great success. And our Skill Council stands ready to handhold institutions that wish to join hands. As I said, my colleague Anirudh is already involved with this particular seminar or webinar, and we'll be happy to handhold those interested. I wish this success, this event, all success. And once again, thank you all very much for having me over. All the best. Stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. CEO of the Life Science Sector Skills Development Council. As you rightly said, India is the pharmacy of the world. And the probability, the potentiality is far higher in the post-COVID times when the awareness on healthcare rises across the world. And you're also right to focus that the skill orientation or the skill focus of this sector is still much lower than what it should be. In the current context, can I ask you a question for a brief answer? We have a long list of speakers today and a huge number of questions that have come in. But still, I'd like to, and this is a question from the audience, which you have got from the participants earlier. The career opportunities and demand of job roles post-COVID. If you could look at the challenges, expectation of the skill ecosystem and the career opportunities post-COVID, if you could speak a few words on that. What should be the students' focus areas post-COVID?
So I'd like to make 2 or 3 points here. First of all, if you don't mind, within the, post-COVID as well, it applies. I think job roles, certainly in manufacturing, would hold great demand because expansion of capacities would definitely be needed. That's point one. Secondly, with Ayushman Bharat, the opportunities for supply chain and sales and marketing, greater outreach would be very important, including in tele-sales and telemarketing.
Right.
That's second. And third is including all job roles that are related to, in particular, the APIs would be important, because Atmanirbharta is going to be given huge stress, and therefore the bulk drugs part of the segment will be really expanding. So job roles in that would be in great demand. And finally, biopharma. So we work very closely with Department of Biotechnology. So biopharma focused job roles and pharmacovigilance, bioinformatics, all of those job roles, I think, will be very strong.
That's very significant. And I would request the later speakers also to throw light on these concepts of biopharma, pharmacovigilance, and the regulatory aspects of pharmacy and medical science, marketing and business aspects, which have already been mentioned, manufacturing as well. So these are some of the key areas where the focus will be, and the later speakers may also focus on explaining exactly what would be the skills in each of these. I go to the next speaker, and let me now introduce the gentleman who introduced this concept to us, Dr. Manojit Debnath. And Dr. Manojit Debnath, who is the head of the Department of Botany, Panskura Banamali College Autonomous, who actually, to support his students, his youngsters, not only of his college, but of this part of the country, Bengal, Bihar, Odisha, and the Northeast, Jharkhand and the Northeast together, he initiated this whole program, which we are seeing today. Dr. Manojit Debnath, thank you for bringing in a very interesting, useful, and productive program today. So your thoughts on the topic of the day. Dr. Debnath, please.
Thank you, Professor Chaudhary, to ask me to present and to my view sharing with our beloved students and the panel speakers. First of all, what I like to say, this program is initiated in my mind in that way when the lockdown period started. We are away from the blackboard teaching chalk and talk, and we are sharing our whiteboard on digital media. And what happened that time, once from one side we are giving, students are taking or not, we are not understanding. So that become an one side play, not a bilateral one. That giving and taking, exchange of ideas has stopped. Then I thought, what we can do if we do to develop their skills for their post-pandemic time period, because they are already wasting their 6 months, and again another 6 months will go like that to initiate the full-fledged practical classes. That is the actual hands-on training regarding our general college classes, and that is the skill development opportunity to those students. Those are the maximum part of our Indian education system in the baseline, that is the colleges. So in that time, I communicated to Mr. Anirudh, and we planned, and we thought that whether we go for a webinar to aware our students what they can do, as our Life Science Sector Skill Council Development CEO said perfectly what they can do. So in my concept, there are 3 types of skill. One is dry skill, that is the book based. Another is wet skill, that is the, or we can say that bench work, the practical, the hands-on. And another is the soft skill. I think these 3 are the most important skill we need. Definitely you have to gather your knowledge from your books and the periphery and your teacher and the other digital system, but you have to implement it by your hands to the bench top. Okay, so with the instruments and other things. And third is the representation of your skill or to the people who are taking your interviews or any other skill appreciation or accreditation things. So soft skill is required for that. I think Professor Chaudhary will be will appreciate that thing, that soft skill regarding presentation and media and other things or soft media presentation, short film, or any other presentation. For this, soft skill is required. What is very much required for our students nowadays. So with this mindset, I can call our beloved students to initiate their skill with the certified Government of India skill mission after graduation and after post-graduation for their job roles and to create opportunity to create apprenticeship in our post-pandemic India. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Devnath. You have really and very correctly focused on the importance of soft skills, personality development, and presentation and other areas, emotional intelligence and presentation skills and all, with respect to professionals working in this field. That's an add-on to the discussion that has been going on. A question for you, Dr. Devnath. What are the main constants in the ground reality of higher education in this particular segment of life science, biotech, biochemistry, pharmaceutical science? So what are the constants in the ground reality of Indian higher education in this sector? What would be your suggestion, to develop or to ameliorate or to mitigate these challenges? Dr. Devnath.
Thank you. In my point of view, the main challenge is to prepare students and to, or rather prepare their hands to present. The main constraint is there, the instrumental constraint in basically in the ground reality or the baseline of the higher education where colleges are there. Particularly, I am not hurting anyone, particularly the government sector. There are so many institutions and so many, most of the students are coming for their graduations and around 1/4 of them are going for post-graduation. But in graduation time, they are learning basically from their book-based study. In case of practicals, there are much more constrained.
Right.
So we need to facilitate that part with providing the particular instruments, particular curriculum, etc.
I totally agree. This is a major challenge of infrastructure in many places, many institutions around the country. The courses are taught, but the practice facilities are very less. And one of the things in our university also, we have been stressing a lot on that. Maybe Dr. Rudra Saha would speak later on that. We have with us the cluster head of Eastern and Northeastern region for Life Science Sector Skills Development Council, LSSDC, Mr. Aniruddha. Mr. Aniruddha, in fact, is the co-custodian of this program in that sense that it is Aniruddhaji's and Manojit's joint endeavor to have started this project. And really, Aniruddhaji is a very proactive person who is trying to bring skills development in the life science sector in East and Northeast India. And as the CEO has rightly said, Bengal and Sikkim are two important clusters. And these two clusters come under the purview of Mr. Aniruddha. I believe Mr. Aniruddha would like to introduce us to a lot of things that the Sector Skills Development Council is doing. He might be using a PowerPoint presentation to do that. He may be facilitated by the host for that. Over to you, Mr. Aniruddha, for speaking on this particular theme. And thank you for partnering and evolving this concept that's happening today.
First of all, good afternoon, all of you, and thank you so much and all the dignitaries, and also my CEO of the Life Sciences Sector Skill Council from Delhi. And just he rightly said about the outlook of the pharmaceutical, biopharmaceutical, and contract research industry. And but I would like to say also Manojit ji, and who contacted me to conceptualize this kind of event to boost up the confidence of the young minds to change their mindset into from academia to the skill development program. So I would like to say something about the Life Sciences Sector Skill Council, and it's a national level accreditation body set up by Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. There are 38 sector skill council, Life Sciences Sector Skill Council, inclusive of Ministry of Ayush, and this is one of the sector skill council also covering the pharmaceutical, biopharmaceuticals, and contract research, especially the R&D divisions area. As I'm looking after the eastern region and northeastern regions, last couple of years, we have observed that in eastern region and northeastern regions, that most of the people are they have lacking in these skills, basically hands-on skill in pharmaceutical and biopharmaceuticals and contract research divisions. So to the I found some areas that needs to be developed and to bridge the gap between supply and demand of skilled workforce, that most of the academias are very much focused on the developing or educating the students, especially the graduations level or the post graduations level. And in this sector, especially if you talk about our CEO rightly said, it's a cluster based sector. If it is a cluster based sectors and eastern region, and so we found the West Bengal, there are more than 15 industries are there. Those are involved into large drug manufacturing, and also, and if you talk about the in northeastern region, Sikkim which is one of the clusters which is emerging out nowadays. Most of the industries, they are manufacturing units established in Sikkim clusters. But if you talk about the combined of the eastern region and northeastern regions, and especially the science divisions to domain of the life sciences sectors and allied sectors, the students basically are Manojit ji has rightly said, students are very theoretical oriented, and the faculty are focused on covering of the syllabus, the theoretical and examination parts. But where the industry does not require any candidate that who has having a lot of knowledge without skills. So knowledge based skills are very, very important for the industry. We found the gap while the students are going for the interview, that students they have not any hands-on skill. Might be they know so many aspects of the life sciences or allied sectors, but they don't have the hands-on skills. Where is the gap? Students here is the students needs to develop industry ready skills. And also I would come first of all, I will focus at the area of the skill development part in eastern region. uh, the, if we develop the faculties and to create the pool of master trainer, where the faculty should upgrade their skills up to the industry benchmark, what is exactly requirement in industry. So life sciences sector skill council is there, which has launched 59 QP, this is qualification packs, and which is NSQF aligned, national skill qualification framework aligned, which is in line with the courses approved by Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. All those courses, and these are not basically called courses, these are called the QP, qualification packs or job roles. All these courses are recommended and validated by the industry, all pharmaceutical and life sciences sectors industries. So if academia integrate the skill component in their general educations in bachelor degree or the master degree, and the last semester to that where they are about to complete their last semester or the last years. So if they enhance their knowledge skills, that knowledge into the skills, so through these qualification and job roles or the NOAs which are exactly required in the industries, and by the pool of master trainer. Also, academia should take the initiative to develop or to upgrade the skills of the trainers, means appointed faculties. So if faculties, they have the right skills, so students definitely will absorb the right skill. They will be able to identify which area they should move on and which industry they should go. So here the faculty should play a very, very crucial role and significant role to set their mind and to set their career. And from the life sciences sector, to the pharmaceutical sector, which is both are linked each other. And if we talk about the infrastructure that Manojit ji has rightly said, infrastructure, we found, especially in the science domain, if we talk about the high secondary schools to the college level, the especially the equipments and well equipped labs. So students are interested to learn. Maybe if they are advised to learn, definitely they will absorb the skills. But if you talk about the colleges, there are some private universities are there, even there are some government universities are there. They have upgraded their labs even up to the industry benchmark, what is exactly required in the industry to develop the skills of the candidates. But there are some academias are there, they are following the traditional way of teaching or imparting the knowledge to the candidates. So this area, and I would like to request, especially those academia have not upgraded the infrastructure or well-equipped labs, and in discussion with sector skill council or the industries, then if they produce the manpower or if they educate the candidates, again candidate will be hopeless and candidate will and face the challenges to crack the interview or might be engaged by the industry. Even honorable prime minister last year has launched the apprenticeship program. What is a apprenticeship program? Earlier it was known as and on the job training or industrial training. That has been changed in the conceptualized and structured in apprenticeship program. In this apprenticeship program, and we found the industries also facing to get the right candidate for the right jobs. So here basically students will join the industry, especially manufacturing industry, after 2 to 3 months. They might not flexible to the guidelines, might be flexible to not flexible to the role and responsibility which has been assigned to them. After 2 to 3 years they quit the job, or maybe there are some other challenges for the candidates, they quit the job. So here is a huge cost has been invested by the industry. If they, after recruiting 20 people in the as a trainees, and if they quit the job, it's a completely, and industries are facing the challenges and it's a cost to the company. So government has launched the national apprenticeship schemes under DGT, Director of General Training, and where we are the one of the sector skill council. We have last year we have engaged 12,000 apprentices. And what is the sole objective of the apprentices and very USP of these apprenticeship programs? Here, during the training period and the shop floor or the industry floor training period, and their industry need not to pay or need not to bear the cost of the candidates, and especially the if the candidate registered under the apprentices and after completion of their degree, maybe from life sciences, maybe from the pharmacy, maybe from B Pharma or M Pharma, they have to be, while they will be engaged by the industry, the government will bear the cost of the stipend, maybe can be treated as salary, and that to the candidates first 1 year. During this 1 year, government will take care of the salary or the stipend part, and this once they are flexible to the guidelines, they are these flexible to the operations and the careers, and then they will be suitable for the jobs. And in that model we found we have reduced the attrition levels, and in also the increase the retentions level in the industry. So industries are very happy. And if you in terms of the industry, if you talk about the more than 600 industries are associated with Life Sciences Sector Skill Council. Those already participated in Skill India mission to engage the apprentices. Last year they have engaged 12,000 people in life sciences sectors. This year they also stands committed to us to engage more than 12,000, and we are also coordinating with the eastern region, especially Bihar, Odisha, as I'm taking care of the Bihar, Odisha and West Bengal, and also the northeastern region, to maximize the apprentices engagement in the industry to boost up the employment, also the visions of the honorable prime ministers and the Skill India missions.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. You have given a detailed functional approach of this Sector Skills Council and also the concept of apprenticeship, which is extremely important. During this pandemic period, what could the Skills Development Council do? Because things were all in a stalemate sort of situation. To develop the skills, if you could tell about some of the initiatives you have taken or will be taking also in near future, if you could talk briefly about that.
Thank you, Ujjalji, as to highlight these points. During the nationwide lockdown, and we found that the accelerations in the employment part got reduced, and completely it goes down in terms of the employment part. So while these to reduce the disruption in education's process, education systems, Life Sciences Sector Skill Council has launched GMP-based e-learning program that has been divided into two parts, and one is the knowledge-based part, and second is the industrial training part. So its life sciences sector is out of the all sector, it's very highly regulated sectors out of the 38 sectors. So here, and if any trainees or if any candidate engaged or hired by the pharmaceutical industry, especially in the production floor, they are not allowed to operate the tools and equipments or the machineries initially. They have to undergo the series of evaluations, especially the GMP based evaluations. Once they qualify, then they will be allowed to work on the production floor. So this to evaluate and to evaluate the efficacy of the skills, especially in the GMP part, so that we have launched the e-skilling program. And second thing is that Life Sciences Sector Skill Council has launched one program, it's called capacity building, that existing employees, suppose those employees already been hired by the companies, they are not recognized or not certified based on their skills or based on their KRA. So we have mapped their KRA, which has been assigned to them, and while they are working in the industry, and with the NSQF aligned QP, then we are certifying them and also evaluating them and then certifying them to recognize their skills and through these certifications by the Government of India.
Okay, thank you. That's a good addition that you have explanation that you said. If a university or a college in Bengal or Northeast wants to develop some skill sets and skill standards that you have made, qualifications that you have made, what is the modality of finalizing agreement? Because there are many professors I'm seeing. Once Dr. Sevak Ranjan Roy is from Macau, and there are many professors of many other universities and colleges here, Adamas surely. So what would you suggest to these institutions to tie up with you, and what should be the nature of work?
Right. So here basically Sector Skill Council is working closely with the different line ministry like MSD, Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, also working with Department of Biotechnology under Ministry of Science and Technology, and also Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment to implement these skills to develop the this existing skill or to enhance the skills of the young minds. Here for the academias, and we have developed and structured the qualification packs as well as the accreditations modules, accreditations guidelines for in respect of all job roles for the universities or the academias. So if they follow up the accreditations guidelines of the Sector Skill Councils, then they can make an MOU with us, Sector Skill Council, in respect of job roles, in respect of qualification packs. After that, if they upgrade their infrastructure and align to the guidelines of the ministry to provide the right skill to the right candidates, so it's completely it's open to the academia to make an MOU with us. After that, and all the facilitation program and especially the implementation to employment, which is the even the significant role council will play. And council, as our CEO rightly said, that council is associated with more than 600 pharma, biopharma and contract research industry in that industry facilitation part, and across the country, and council will play the crucial role.
Thank you. I would request you, because Dr. Sevak and Madam Pritha Das Gupta and many are asking how we can get connected with the Sector Skills Council. Right. So Mr. Aniruddha, you can leave in the chat box your email ID and contact details, where some of the universities and institutes can get connected to you.
Great, thank you.
I will now go to the only lady in the panel,
Okay.
Dr. Paramita Basu. And madam is so nice to listen to you a second time now it will be. We had one earlier program as well, very interesting that was as well. And she has joined us from New York. Dr. Paramita Basu has joined us from New York. I think it's 5:30 in the morning, perhaps. I don't know whether she had her morning coffee or not. She can tell that 5 or 5:30. I must really thank you on behalf of the 536, 537 participants here, and I don't know what numbers are there on Facebook and YouTube. Maybe another 500. So the 1,000 people on their behalf, I should thank you for a lady to get up at 4 o'clock or 4:30 in the morning, get ready for a show in India and to address, because Mr. Aniruddha, Dr. Manojit and Dr. Rudra have invited, is indeed so kind of you. From Toro College, New York, Madam Basu is there. So ma'am, you speak about, I will not preempt you, I'll ask you questions later on. So whatever you had initially in mind with respect to sector skills in the life science, pharmaceutical, biotech segment, how to develop that, what sort of careers are coming ahead, how should the youngsters be prepared for that? Overall, your first 10 minutes talk, Mr. Professor Paramita Basu, please, from New York.
Hello, Professor Chaudhary. Thank you so much for having me. I have also been before on a forum here with Dr. Shah and yourself, and it was a pleasure actually, which is why I'm here back again. This is always an area that's very close to my heart because I am from India. I am from Bengal, and like a true Bengali, as I said in the last class, I still stick to my morning tea, not coffee.
Not coffee, right, you said that.
But in any case, I am always happy to be here. I am a professor myself, and I was listening to everybody here. I also learned a lot about what's going on in India. I was looking at the chat questions too, and there are a lot of students and professors here, and I'm really happy to see a lot of people who are from familiar circumstances. I was many years ago in a similar situation, which is why I'm always happy to participate in a discussion like that. I guess as for me, I will talk a little bit about how life sciences careers how they move on, how life science graduates, they move on in what are the different fields in which they are employed in the US, because I see India, as you mentioned, India has a young population and a big skilled population, which I think is India's biggest advantage. And I see a lot of potential right now that involves Indian graduates, and which is why I bring up the US scenario, because right now I can tell you my husband works for a pharmaceutical industry. He's also a graduate of he's a B Pharm and an MTech in biotechnology. I myself have an MTech in biotechnology too, after a BS and an MS. And I know that we are seeing right now a lot of companies are going to India for manufacturing. My husband's company is manufacturing remdesivir in India, so they are obviously employing people. But I think life sciences has suddenly jumped to the forefront now with COVID, post-COVID. I feel more than any other field, I think life sciences has become the biggest spotlight right now in terms of careers. I have moved from a background of life sciences. I have moved to the pharmacy because my MTech was in pharmaceutical biotechnology. And I can tell you here, pharmaceutical pharmacy is definitely a more bio and life science oriented field rather than chemistry oriented. And then of course, pharmacy and pharmaceutical sciences are like almost two different careers. And I will talk very, very briefly about both. So as a life science graduate, obviously, particularly post-COVID, there are a lot of the traditional careers where the number of available jobs increased, of course, like I'm sorry, I'm just going to make sure that I'm still there. Yes. Like like being a physician, like going into medical school and becoming a doctor, or in the traditional pharmacist role in the US, where from after a life science degree, you take the PCATs and you apply to pharmacy school and you become a practicing clinical pharmacist with a specialization. Those are the very traditional roles. But other than that, a lot of now I see a lot of other roles that have popped up in the clinical field, and then I will go on into the basic science field in a second. But in the clinical field too, I see that in the current situation, you have a lot of new roles, particularly in the field of pathology, with a lot of with a big burden on the labs for testing. They are certainly the hiring of pathologists and laboratory technicians who are certified for clinical laboratory handling. That has increased a lot. In any case, the US Bureau of Labor Statistics definitely had predicted that biology major or life science major jobs would see a big growth all the way through 2026. And this, of course, includes like biochemists, genetic counselors, like people who have a degree in genetics, medical scientists. But again, genetics counselor is a job that comes into the forefront as we know more and more about COVID. We realize that genetics plays a role about how susceptible you would be to COVID, and so people are seeking out this kind of information. Other than that, a big portion of our life science graduates go into the pharma industry, and I guess a big part plays the same role as what our B Farm graduates from India do, which is pharmaceutical manufacturing and product development and formulating. That is, I think, a little bit more traditional pharmacy type jobs. But I see a lot of other, during my time, I worked as an assay designer with a life science degree. I think that's a big role, both in the diagnostics industry and in the pharmaceutical industry, where you are brought in as an R&D personnel to design assays. Basically, whenever you are trying to do any experiment, you're trying to design a new drug, you'll have to measure various factors, and so you are going to need assay developers. Then other than that, and you also see roles like new roles now, like which are much more focused on quality assurance and quality control. With COVID now, there are the safety factors are becoming more and more important. And then other than quality control and quality assurance, of course, I want to make sure that they are slightly different from each other. And quality control is more at the manufacturing site, where you are looking at the quality of the product, whereas quality assurance is more of documentation kind of a job, where with COVID particularly, there's more and more regulatory safety guidelines that are being released, and it's a quality assurance person's job to make sure that those are being complied to. So this kind of quality assurance career, which is now suddenly big because of COVID, it's a very systems based career, focused usually on designing, implementing, managing new systems rather than steps within how a drug is manufactured. So, and I must mention here, it would not be fair not to mention a patent attorney too. I have a lot of fellow students who did PhDs with me, who have gone on to get their JDs as a patent attorney. So that is a very important role in a pharmaceutical field, and it's a very, very well paid role too, I must tell you. Other than that, I think, a lot of the speakers here already mentioned a lot of the traditional life science programs, like working in labs, being a microbiologist, or being a professor in a college or a teacher. Those, and or even in here in the US, a lot of life science graduates go on to become medical technologists, physicians assistants, dental assistants. I already mentioned pathologists, but also, a lot of field opportunities within the allied health sciences. But there's one other thing that I would like to touch upon, because I was looking at all this interesting conversation that was going on. I wear two different hats in my college, other than being having a faculty appointment in the area of biomedical sciences. I have another role in my college, and my role is to coordinate the curriculum. So I am the chair of our curriculum committee, which means that I'm responsible to the accreditation agency to make sure that we are in compliance with all the new curriculum guidelines. And Aniruddha was talking about skills, and this is a relatively new concept, like being industry ready, being so that's, you call it skills, we call it entrustable professional activities, and which means that you can, in the classroom, a professor can only teach you. If we talk about cooking, how to make, say, pasta, then a professor can teach you the recipe, the steps of how to make pasta. But are you actually able to make a pasta that is edible? So that would be the concept of entrustable professional activities. And now I see in the curriculum trend, with all the new standards coming out, there is a new trend in the pedagogical research that talks about these entrustable professional activities, and how are they different from outcomes, the typical outcomes that we list when we design a curriculum or we design a course, or when a university has its curriculum, which I'm sure is regulated and monitored, just like I monitor I am responsible for, my team is responsible for monitoring the quality and of the curriculum, making sure that we are meeting the requirements, assessing if we are meeting the requirements, and most importantly, making sure that we are constantly identifying gaps and we are constantly improving. So there is a constant quality improvement, CQI process that's built into the curriculum. And EP, the entrustable professional activities, EPAs as we call them, are a new addition to this. But I actually do feel that, having skill development, practical skill development, needs to be also mapped into the curriculum in the same way that we map if we are covering all the aspects or topics that needs to be covered. When you are producing life science graduates, I'm sure, Dr. Shaha, you have in mind these are the topics that our program would have to cover before, and the student would have to demonstrate mastery over those concepts before they are allowed to graduate, right? But what has been happening in the US is, again, constantly people are realizing that there is a gap between theoretical knowledge and practical knowledge, which is why the concept of EPAs is coming in. So I do believe that it is important to take a mapping approach to make sure that at the end of, within your curriculum, you are making sure that you are identifying points at which you can put in checks for assessments for the readiness of students in terms of skills, or EPAs, and then so basically develop an EPA map in parallel to your curriculum map. This is what we are working on here in the US in the pedagogical front. I am definitely a huge supporter of this movement. And then the other part that I was going to bring up, I do not know, when I was studying here in the US, I definitely know that the US has a program built in called a practical training program. Usually either it's curricular practical training or it's outside of the curriculum, which is usually done in the summer year. But internships, basically, when I was in India, I have done internships as part of the curriculum in Bose Institute, in National Institute of Immunology, and I consider myself very, very lucky because I got to learn a lot of the things that I would never be able to learn in a university lab. But now, as I, after listening to Anirudh, when I realized that now they have this consortium where there is a collaboration between the government is facilitating opportunities for current graduates to intern or apprentice or whatever you want to call it at industries. I think that's a wonderful opportunity. But from a more, I think as an academic program too, there is a need to make sure that that is also mapped and assessed in the academic program so that there is no gap there, or it's easy to identify gap. That was my 2 cents on it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you indeed. I'd like to ask you a couple of questions that I received from the audience earlier, or those who were registering. So one is, just a minute, please. One is, yeah, the standard question that comes, one is about the needs to work in a lab, research in a lab at US. What are the basic needs and basic qualifications and basic skill sets and all? That's one. What are the prospects of life science sector in academia? Whether the COVID situation changed the landscape of this sector, particularly in US context. So these two things, if you could look at.
Absolutely. So, so I'm going to go for the first question first, which was about what are the requirements, lab requirements that are needed to work. I believe, if I understand your question correctly, Dr. Chaudhary, you are talking about students who want to work in the US, right?
Yes.
So in this case, I don't think that there is a huge requirement. I think majority of the times, a lot of Indian students that we get here, the applications, we already see that there is a lot of research experience that's already listed in their CV. But majority of the times, though, I feel that in general, when you apply to the US, and something that I did not know when I was a student, was that it's more about establishing your interest, and rather than listing that I know how to do this and this and this and this, rather than listing a technical skill set. I think it's a little more personal in the sense that you have to demonstrate that you have an interest in the idea, not by saying, oh, I know how to do, I know how to analyze DNA or proteins, or I know how to do immunological studies, or I know how to do ELISA or sequencing. That's not, I think, what is needed. What is needed more is, to show that you have worked in labs, you are engaged in some sort of research activities with your professor, because not everybody has the mindset or the interests or the I don't want to say talents, but skill sets, right frame of mind to be involved in research, certainly. And not everybody needs to have those either. It would be rather boring if everybody became researchers, actually. But but students who are actually interested in working in a lab setting, as in the R&D, I think it's important for them to demonstrate through these different practical experiences. They need to show that maybe they have, during their summers, they have tried to get experience in research labs outside of what is needed in their curriculum. It could be research with a professor in the college, or it could be research in a research institute, or in a pharma company. But they basically have taken, out of their own initiative, they have taken steps to make sure that they are familiarizing themselves with the experience of research and the skills needed in research outside of what is required in their curriculum. I think that kind of shows initiative and interest. I think that is the most important thing to establish when you apply in a US program, particularly in research. And then, and of course, having some skill sets is always important. But I think in general, the interest is definitely the essay that we write that at least I did not know was so important. Definitely that is your place to shine, where you talk about why you want to come into research and what have you done to establish that you are interested in research. So that statement of purpose is really, really important. Moving on to the second question that you asked me, which was about post-COVID
Yes.
faculty,
Landscape.
post-COVID changes in the life science teaching scenario. So being a faculty member in the biomedical sciences, I teach a lot of the basic sciences, and I can tell you that the shift that has happened is, of course, due to the safety reasons. A lot of the learning is happening online, and I have seen that it affects students differently. So in our pharmacy program, we, as I told you before, we do not have undergrad students. We have students who come in after their undergrad, completing their undergrad. And what we've still seen is usually it is the first 2 years who are obviously less self-directed as learners,
Okay.
they tend to become more dependent on the interaction with the faculty, so they are definitely suffering. Whereas the higher years, as they become more and more lifelong learners, self-directed learners, I think I see that their performance has actually increased. They are actually liking this model of online learning.
Okay. Dr. Sheikh Masiul Islam, who is from the CSIR, Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, CSIR, and from Siri Pilani, Rajasthan of CSIR unit, he is asking, you talked about quality control. What is the current scenario of India's quality infrastructure to ensure standards development, technical regulation, and conformity assessment and accreditation, market, and also market surveillance? Any idea about the Indian standards on this? Any suggestions on that? He's asking for that.
So I'm sure, Dr. Shaha would also be able to speak to this. I know, to the best of my knowledge, I've worked with a couple of pharmacy programs. Again, I'm not, because of my current involvement in the pharmacy curriculum, I do get a lot of collaborative opportunities with Indian colleges that specialize in pharmacy. Yes, there are definitely bodies that monitor the standards that are needed. Like, they definitely provide guidelines and standards that programs would have to adhere to in order to ensure that they're building the skills that are needed for their graduates to be fit to actively participate in a career once they get out of college. And I'm very, very sure that this is true for life sciences, even in quality assurance. Students who are planning to go into the quality assurances field, particularly in the pharma industry, I know here in the US there is FDA, and in India too, you have the guidelines, the pharmacopoeia guidelines, which are very, very stringent and has to be adhered to. And then, of course, let's not forget that a lot of the companies, manufacturing sites in India have to adhere to FDA standards too, because a lot of these sites are belong to companies that are not only based in India but all over the world, so they have to kind of adhere to world standards. So yes, they have to I would assume, I don't work for a pharmaceutical industry right now, but I'm very sure that anybody who works in the pharmaceutical companies in the quality assurance would have to make sure that they are abreast of the quality standards and guidelines that are not only issued by FDA but also by Indian Pharmacopoeia, as well as, I would say, maybe the European Food and Drug Association.
Thank you. That's about the standards, the quality assurance, and a very interesting difference that you made on quality control versus quality assurance. Something that one needs to understand in this area very much. I'm very happy also to note, he's not a speaker today, but to note that Dr. Biswajit Ghosh of RK Mission Vivekananda College, Rohora, is also here. And they run a skill development program for last 2 years under LSSSD DC approved course. And he has given his contact details as well in the chat box. Thank you for that. Dr. Ghosh, thank you very much. To all the panelists, you can look into the chat box and answer or share opinion, share advice, share suggestions, or any of the things that you feel like as you see on the chat box. I have now the pleasure of calling the Dean of Adamas University, the School of Life Science and Biotechnology. Interestingly, this particular School of Life Science and Biotechnology of Adamas University has 3 distinct departments: biotechnology, biochemistry, and microbiology. One of the commonest questions that youngsters ask, sir, what is the exact difference between the 3? I think today morning also, when he was addressing 140 youngsters here in the university, new admission seeking candidates, he was also explaining the same thing once again there as well. Yes, that is one query. But apart from that, one of the things that you have rightfully a pride in is the infrastructure. And as Dr. Manojit and even Mr. Aniruddha has said, the lack of right infrastructure is hampering the skills development today. So if you, sir, could throw light on these 3 departments, their technologies that you use, the infrastructure that you use, the type of skill set that you are bringing in, and the impact you are having. Over to Dr. Rudra Prasad Saha, popularly known as RPS, to speak about these aspects as we told. Dr. Saha, please.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Chaudhary. And first, I would like to thank all the fellow panelists for all the information that I'm sure will be helpful for all the participants, both students as well as the faculty members. And as you know, as a teacher, we always want to teach our students. We always want to follow, traditionally, we follow the syllabus, whatever written in the syllabus, and we try to impart all the knowledge, transfer the knowledge, whatever the teacher know to their students. Now, during this process, what happens in most cases, that the student learn a lot, but sometimes they cannot use whatever the knowledge they have learned to apply. And there is a big disconnection between what we do in the laboratory and what is being taught generally, in general sense. Obviously, there are exceptions. So we teach a lot of knowledges, and we do very little in the lab because of the infrastructure and other issues that others already mentioned, Manojit Devnath and Mr. Aniruddha. And even teachers are not skilled. So they probably have learned a lot. They have a lot of knowledge, but they themselves have not applied all those knowledges in the laboratory environment. And they are probably not that much skilled to actually transfer. So obviously students are not skilled. If you look at traditionally, if you look at the syllabuses, syllabuses are not changed over the time. We still delivering same type of knowledge. We are still developing our, even in the laboratory, probably 8 to 10 labs, 8 to 10 different types of experiments for each subject a student do. And in most cases, the infrastructure is not there in the institutions to do all those 10 experiments. So what they do a couple of experiments and then improvise and do the combinations of and permutation and combination of the same thing, repeating the same thing. So in that case, and also not all students, you see that one teacher is guiding like 60 students in the laboratory setting, and obviously only 2 or 3 are actually doing the work, and the 50 students are around and they are all, it's kind of a demonstration. It becomes a demonstration where the connection between the teacher and the students is lost. And therefore, most of the students, 95% of the students actually, as they disconnected from the learning, they does not learn anything. eventually. And that creates a lot of problem because they have probably learned a lot of things. They probably have memorized a lot of theories and other things. But eventually, when it comes to the job, when a student is going to apply for a job, and when he or she faces the interview board, most of the questions are application oriented, and real life situations comes from the real life situation. And because of the gap, because they have not, 90% of students have not done the practical by their own hand, so obviously they have not, that they don't know the knowledge. We all know that there is a gap between the, as Professor Basu explained clearly, that theoretical knowledge and practical knowledge, there is a disconnection. Whatever we learn, when you are going to apply in the laboratory setting, sometimes we have to change. We have to go beyond the theory. Not everything is written there in the books, and books are textbooks. Those are not research articles where every information is given. So obviously, student doesn't learn everything from theory. They need to do by their own hand. Then only they will learn the additional knowledges. And they, as they have not learned that in the laboratory settings, because of the crowding and infrastructure issues, and even the teachers are not all teachers are skilled enough. Most of the time the experiments are done by like PhD students, or some demonstrator or lab technicians who may not be that much skilled. So that creates a big disconnection, and that affect or reflects in during the interviews when they are going for the job. And most of the students, obviously they did not select it, because the expectation of the industry and the what we are teaching to the students are, there is a big difference. And that already Mr. Ranjit Madan is already mentioned that even if we have a large number of graduates, only 5% is skilled as per the industry standard. So obviously 95 students are not going to get a job. So what will happen to that 95 students? So we should accept that the way we are teaching, that has to change. We should be more practical oriented. Lab infrastructure should be developed in such a way there that whatever we are teaching, we should repeat that or perform that experiment in the lab to as much as possible. If you do not do that, obviously the gap will continues to going to increase. And in this context, what the skill sector is doing, I would like to thank Mr. Anuruddha and his team, that in this scenario they should take the main lead to train all the teachers. We should, even for universities, even if university may not needed that kind of accreditation, but we still, I think this kinds of accreditation is needed. Hand-holding is needed. Even all, as I said, not all teachers are trained enough. They are not skilled enough. They probably are skilled in one sector. Maybe they do have like one particular subject, they are probably skillful. But when they're teaching in the institute level, in a college or university or institute, they are probably teaching 5-6 different subjects sometimes. And they have to handle different types of lab, and they are not skillful. So obviously there is a compromise, and probably it happens more in the public institutions because of the lack of infrastructure, lack of money and other things. Probably that gap probably have basically the disconnection is less in private university, who have better infrastructure. They can modify their syllabuses accordingly to the needs. They can talk to the industry, and they can modify and add the infrastructure that is required to get the skillful. Because eventually, and traditionally, I want to mention that whenever we talk about biology, most of the students, the perception of the students, even 6 months back, is the only thing they can do is research. You have to finish your undergraduate degree, postgraduate degree, you have to do your PhD and go for research. Only then you can get a job after a long time. But there is a big industry already available in the India, but because our students are not getting any job, the information is not there. Only a small percentage of students are actually are absorbed in the industry, biotech industry or pharmacy industry, because of the gap of the knowledge or skill. And so most of them, what they are doing, they are actually changing lines, or they are going for research. So the perception is not there. So awareness has increased, as others have already said, that the awareness has increased multifold because of the COVID-19 situation, and people can actually see. And these kinds of webinar is very important to our students that there are opportunities are available in India, but they do not know that there are jobs available. There are different types of sector in the biotechnology or allied industries are available, but we do not know because we are not skilled enough. We are not aware. Even teachers are not aware of that. If you ask a teacher, most of them won't be able to tell how many different types of industries are there, what kind of jobs we can get from the biotech sector or life science sector, because they don't know. They only know, most of them only know that you have to finish your PhD, you have to go abroad, you have to do research, and then you will get a job. So these awareness is very important, and as I would like to thank Monojit Devnath and Mr. Aniruddha for organizing these kinds of webinar. Obviously, Professor Chaudhary, these awareness is required. So if 1,000 students learn that there are actually jobs are available, but we need to be skillful. Obviously, the skilled they cannot just acquire by learning books, by reading books. They have to do that in the lab, and that has to be the in line with the requirement of the industry. So industry academia connection is very important, and LSSDC should bridge this gap, and I would like to thank you for that. So with that, as you said that 3 departments are there, and for general terms, obviously biotechnology is using microorganisms and different other organisms to develop products, and so always we aim for either acquire new knowledge or new product, where microbiology is more focused in the pathogenic or important microorganism that we can use in the industry, even for the drug development. Biochemistry is a more traditional per se compared to like microbiology or biotechnology. But now biochemistry is, even the biochemistry sector get big boost because of COVID-19 for the diagnostic industry. Right. Because now the diagnostic industry is booming. We lots of different types of diagnostic procedures are developed. There are lots of repurposing of the drugs. If you look at the data, you will find more than 500 different drug candidates are there, which are existing drugs now repurposed for the COVID-19. So these industries now booming, and biochemistry students have a big role to play here, because they know lot of this chemistry, chemical reaction that is happening inside the body, and they can actually have upper hand in developing drugs and other things. So anyway, the overall, in nutshell, because of the COVID-19, definitely the sector got big boost. Now the awareness is there, right, even in the general public, and I'm sure with the help of the accreditation body like LSSDC and Government of India and other boards, in future this sector will get much more, students will get into much more into these kinds of jobs in future.
Great, thank you. And in fact, the importance of infrastructure, importance of skill development, both has been quite well emphasized. With respect to Adamas University, are you in your office, sir, or just now from home?
No, I am in my office.
So if you could speak, first of all, if you could briefly speak, how is your university actually helping in skill development? See, completion of syllabus and all, everyone does. What is significant, right, is skill development and practical exposure. What exactly are you doing? If you could speak a bit on that, and then we'll come back again.
Okay, so what we are doing, we are talking to all the industry available through the career development cell that we have in the industry, which connect us to the industries, because at the end of the career course, either it's an undergraduate or postgraduate course, if students wants to get a job, he or she has to face an interview panel of a certain company. So there are different types of companies available that others are already mentioned, and we reach out to all the companies available both in West Bengal and sometimes outside of the West Bengal too, and we talk to them to what are their requirements. So and from these interactions we learn what kind of practicals we should introduce in our course. that even would be helpful for the if student learn a few practicals, few laboratory courses that are actually needed, because industry is following, industry is doing, a particular industry is doing all these kinds of practicals, then it would be easier for the students to get into that particular job. And that's we actively doing, we actively collaborating with different industry partner, and we are incorporating their suggestions, particularly in the lab courses, and we are moving away from the traditional whatever the lab syllabuses are there, like 20 years back, and now it's a more modern, we procuring more and more instrument. For example, HPLC, many industry depends on HPLC. So if a student, if an undergraduate student learn how to run an HPLC, it would be helpful for him or her to get into the industry. That is not there in traditional universities or institutes. So it is, so that's what we do actively, and we also open to with collaboration with Mr. Aniruddha and LSSDC in future, so that more and more opportunities can come to our students.
Great. We will, that was, thank you for that additional point. I would like to come back with more questions a bit later. And if you don't mind, if you can move away from laptop and come to your mobile, I would love to, later on, after the next speaker, actually love to have a deco of the entire infrastructure. If you can explain some of the key machinery that you use and what skill sets and all in that, that would be a good demonstration as well, not just lectures and lectures. That's all. So I have the pleasure of now inviting the next speaker, again from God's own country, the US, Dr. Supratim Basu. Now Parumita madam is smiling. I understand God has not been very kind to US in the recent times. I do understand that. Dr. Supratim Basu, team leader and product commercialization manager, Innate Immunity LLC from Colorado, USA. So Dr. Basu, I'm sure you are there in the audience, kindly unmute yourself and the host may highlight Dr. Basu as he speaks. Over to Dr. Basu. Yes, that's you there. What's the time there?
Good morning. It's 5:08. So okay. Good morning from Colorado.
Too early. And yeah. Did you have the coffee or the tea? Parumita had the tea. What did you have in the morning?
Same tea.
Team. Okay. Shuddha Bangali.
Ekdom Shuddha Bangali.
America bosho Shuddha Bangali. That's good. Ekdom. Good. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's a pleasure to present some of my experiences that I gained over the years. So I like, as Dr. Basu, Dr. Shaha, all have mentioned, like the job prospects or the different fields that we all can go into. So I would like to kind of more focus on the visa side and how you can crack the interview, because I have faced all these problems over in my life during this. So to begin with, my first kind of goal will be to identify what people know about the job market. So like the first slides or the first set of speakers already have shown how the job market is changing in the current scenario, or what we have heard from family, friends, and what we mainly would like to know, like the visa and all those. So when I moved to United States back in 2011, I just did not have much knowledge, and Google and everything, internet browsing was not that developed. So it was really a hard task for me to go through all this and get a job as a postdoc and stuff like that. Just FYI, I moved to United States as a postdoc. After just submitting my PhD thesis, I moved to US as a postdoc, and from then on, my journey started. So my topic will be focusing primarily on what are the challenges in regards to the career, then how the US job market is current scenario, and what are the main thing that I normally seek, as well as the industry people normally seek from the employees, and then what is the importance of networking and how you can crack the interviews. So just a brief thing why we need to study in USA. It is already like well known that we have a lot of options to switch between courses, like I studied microbiology, and then I am doing my job in a kind of biomedical technology that focuses on plants as well as the human side. So we are on therapeutic sides. But before that, I was in completely in a different domain where I was focusing mainly on the agricultural aspects. Then the way, like how you can get like access to the cutting edge technology, be it the mass spectrometry or the CRISP gene editing technologies, you name it, they have it. Then different scopes for researches and internships, which everybody has already mentioned that what is the essence of research and internship, or the skill set that you will never like need to develop, and the scopes of assistantship. Here they don't, preferably don't call it as a scholarship, they call it more of you were salaried or not. So basically it's all employment. And then the visa hassles, which is most important, which I think Dr. Basu already has also faced over in her career. So like I will not emphasize much on the different opportunities because Dr. Basu has already mentioned, but like when you want to come to the US, the first best opportunity is to come after PhD as a postdoc, but that is a tough life, I can tell you that, because when you come to US as a postdoc, you are already like streamed out from industry jobs because you have that visa hassles, you are not educated from India. I faced myself personally for last 6+ years. So, oh, you are not US educated, you have this visa problem, you have that visa problem, you have been in this PhD line forever and ever. So that's a big problem. So because, and then if you want to go for an assistant professor job, oh my God, that's a big troublemaker. So like, oh, I did my PhD in agriculture, but you know, you don't have knowledge on pathology. So Bayer will say, Monsanto, oh, you know, you have too much educated, you cannot be an industry leader or something, too much publication. So forget it, go back to your research and start keep publishing. Assistant professor job, oh, you know, you are not from an accredited university and this, that. So it's too much. So postdoc to assistant professor to industry, that's a rough transition. Industry, no way, no way. Until you get your green card or O visa, which is for outstanding scientists, like EB1A visa kind of thing. EB1 is person of extraordinary ability. Oh my God, how do you justify extraordinary ability? Like, do I have 6 fingers? Do I have extra eyes? Something. You don't know. You name it, they will create it for you. The USCIS people up there, oh, they will create it. So personally, I would really feel like, as Dr. Basu have already stated, like you come to US as a PhD, you be a student, get to all the grindings of a student, give the GRE or the TOEFL or the IELTS, and then you go on, finish your PhD. Then you have a lot of options, whether you want to switch to the clinical side, you want to switch to the pharmaceutical side, regulatory, which is the EPA and all those, the environmental side, the biofuel industry is a big booming industry. The environment, COVID, climate change. If we all followed the debate that happened yesterday, you will see environmental side will soon be a big job opening, as the new presidential candidate mentioned that, oh, we will create like 100,000 plus jobs or so for the environmental side. So I would just say the best option to come to the United States will be you come as a PhD grad or a master student. You finish your master's or BS from India and come to the US. Just go through the hard exams of the GRE or the TOEFL or IELTS and then come to US. And if anyone, I that aspirant for management still at this age, at this experience, like you can do GMAT and come to US for management degree, or do other like project management skills and all those skills, then you can move on there. So the most important problem that here we will face when you come to United States from India, we have like food, everything, culture, everything, we have a differences. And our communication is a big problem. So simple example, like, oh, we are habituated to calling lift is like when you try to go up the stairs, they will say, oh, you want a ride? No, 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 I want to go upstairs. So they will call elevator, and that will change to lift, lift will change to elevator, and so on and so forth. First, there is a communication error. Then there will be a different form of culture that you have to get habituated to, familiarize, and different work cultures. The politics is little, not little, it's way different than it happens in India. And another thing is, in workplace there will be different sorts of competition. Your PI may be just too straightforward. Dr. Basu can easily mention, she's a faculty member. And I from the industry perspective, you will see the communication is very hard and fast. They don't care about the emotions. They will say, oh, I don't need you, go, done. So you have to be ready for that. We will have days where we'll spend crying and like, oh, they don't respect my emotions and stuff like that. So you have to be aware of that and be prepared mentally, emotionally for this hard physical grind that is going to happen to you over your next few years or even throughout your life. And we all are going through the same. COVID has not helped, but it has harshened the more reality than it used to be previously. Then, so like once I talk about all this, you will. I would like to focus on the strategies and challenges, how you, what I have decided, like, okay, that is the path I would recommend everyone to follow. Like, try to go through career fairs or career webinars, which we are currently right now. Then try to get as many interviews as possible. By interview meaning not directly job interviews, just like try to connect to people through informational interviews. Then write good resume. There is a slight difference between a resume and a cover letter. So that's how the HR people would love to call it. Oh, you, this is a resume and this is your curriculum vitae. So your resume is should be a 4 to 5 page long that focus everything, and a CV per se should for be a, just like a concise 1 or 2 pages where it just focus on your soft skills and what are the resources that you can make use of. Try, oh, I have good references here, I have good people. Go get connected to people, as many people as possible, and refer to as many job listings as possible. And then networking, as I mentioned, like LinkedIn, professional pitches, like try to connect to people, like then go to different groups in Facebook. Like there are groups like Cheeky Scientists or STEM Peers who are helping a lot to the international students for getting a job at the US market, and the information interviews. Now, the most important challenge that we all face, like I am a pure Bengali and still am a pure Bengali at heart. So English language proficiency is a big thing. So you have to develop that skills. And oh, there was, oh, you know, there is a big problem. I cannot understand you. You don't speak well. You need to develop that. It was really hard. Like we are from a country where we have been educated since day zero of our life in English. We are reading. It's okay. We may not speak well, but there are people from other parts of the country who cannot even write a good sentence. So then there is the visa issue, which is getting worse every day. We come across newspapers like, oh, this visa H1B is gone, this F1 visa, H1B visa, A, B, C, D, you name it, they have it. And then there is a green card. That's another big pain in the like pipeline that's happening. And then the US workplace customs and excuse me, and then the cultural expectation. Here people are very straightforward. They will look directly into the eye. We try not to, we in respect, as a mark of respect, we try to look down and talk to the senior people, whether it's our professor or mentor or something. You directly look into the eye and say, and then you need to call your senior, like a professor who is 70-year-old by name, like, oh, hi X. I had a colleague from my old place in back in 2011 or 12. She was 70 plus years old, and I called her auntie. She was like, what? You call me Susan? I said, okay, fine. I'll call you Susan. That was 2011 when I just landed. You cannot call your professor by sir, ma'am, or etc. It has to be Dr. Paramita straight, even not doctor, Paramita straight, that's it. You name it, that's it. So you have to be very assertive. You have to have a good handshake, good communication and stuff like that. So here I was just trying to show that there are some job sites that everyone can try to follow, but it's not limited, but there are a hell lot of options that you can go on. Like you have a science career work, nature careers, plenty for people like us, agri people. Indeed gives you a lot of job opportunities. Then there is Monster. Monster will give you mainly contractual jobs for individuals who are already in US. It's not helpful, mainly for people coming from internationals. And the best platform is LinkedIn, that helps you not only connect, but also look for good jobs. And next thing is like, what are the prospective things that the US employers are looking in you? Like to hire international students, like, oh, it's too time consuming, visa problems. So when you try to talk to an US employer per se, you would like to know what visa can give you in like that. And then you need to know how the job requires you and how you fit into the role and what is your unique skill. By unique meaning what you can add on to the team, like a group that is already there, but what's your new unique thing that you can add? Like, oh, I have this skill where I can develop a product in just like 5 days. So similarly, like here I was looking to hire somebody from India, and my boss, they mentioned, oh no, we are a company and you don't want to bring in people from India, especially during this unprecedented times. It will take years, like 6 months to 1 year. I cannot have that much of time. Okay, even if I like that candidate, I have to go by that way from my top boss. So there will be all these problems that you will be facing ever since, when especially like this is simple example. When I was on J1 visa, that's the easy visa by which postdocs come as an exchange visitor and scholar. That's a big problem anyways. So I was almost hired. Then this, oh, this is your visa status. So I'll come back to you. And they never came back. It's been 10 years. So yeah, you need to go through all these problems in your life. So what are the most important skills that I would love to see in my students or my employees who are coming? Because when I was a postdoc and I was mentoring, or a scientist, I was mentoring people in the university background, I always used to say, whether they're from Brazil or from Indonesia or Africa, I would just like to say, please learn how to communicate or express your feelings more. And here people kind of, though independent, they think they're independent, but they love a team structure. They will ask you every time and again, how will you work in a team's culture? The team can be a group of one person, team can be a group of 5% or more. And make sure you develop that skills, the soft skill, which they prefer call it. We prefer calling it the decision making and problem solving skills. And get a good idea of how the process works. Emphasize on like, okay, I know HPLC, so what? I know mass spec, so what? I need to analyze the data. So try to analyze the data, be good in the statistical area of the process, so that okay, this is, I can use R or SAS or JUMP to analyze the data and give more value to it. That makes it more statistically sound. Then get a knowledge about the technicalities. Okay, I run HPLC, but everybody can run an HPLC, but you need to know. When I was interviewed in Bayer, they asked me, oh, you say you can isolate protein from plants. Can you explain how you do it? And if you have a good amount of samples, how you process it? What are the roles of the special ingredients in this buffer? So you know what I'm trying to emphasize is the fact that you need to know every technical importance of the constituents or the mechanism of the system, how it works, like the computational programs, and as I mentioned, and then you should be able to edit and write reports. So the first essence of my thing for getting a job is practice speaking English day in, day out, so that you can communicate straight on face and don't feel that uncomfort zone, stuck in an uncomfort zone of, oh, I know my English is bad. If I'm able to explain something and not. So here I would like to just say that when I was interviewed for my postdoc in United States, my mentor those days, he asked me a question. Oh, think something out of the box. I was like, what is out of the box thinking? I was thinking, okay, I have 1,000 rupees and I need to do some science. So my ideas were already limited to 1,000 rupee. And he said, oh, no, don't think something like that. You need to think big. I was like, okay. Still, I thought, gave an idea. He said, oh, no, that's not what I'm looking for. You need to think very, very extravagant. I said, okay. So try to create something, think out of the box. What is additional that you can do? Like, okay, I know DNA gel. So what? If I can substitute DNA gel with something computer, like digital, try to be something like that. So that brings us to the point how networking is important. So you need to have a good connect professional network, so that this professional network does not necessarily mean you need to know that person. Write to people on LinkedIn or a Facebook career group. Oh, you know, I am this. I need to have connections, communications with you so that I can know how the company or the system works. Then try to explore career opportunities. The networking honestly helps you getting hired in many industry jobs. Okay, I know this person, so there will be some job posting that will never ever come out, and you will be, oh, I got the job as a scientist in X company or X university. Oh, was that job ever posted? No, it never gets posted. And even if it gets posted, you will be the first one to get hired. So that's the basic thing, whether it's a Bayer or Monsanto or DuPont, you name them, they have it. So that's kind of where networking leads you into. Next skills is like,
yeah, Dr. Basu, kindly now summarize a bit.
sure. Yeah. So just to sum up, when you go to United States, there will be like some visas and all those things that you should come back and get to it, and just make sure you look directly into the eye so that you have a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you for a very good, interesting rundown on the entire concept of working, studying abroad, particularly in US context, and how do you really evolve in that particular ambience, in that environments. We'll come back with certain questions. Just a quick comment, Dr. Vasu. Do you think the post-COVID, the career opportunities, jobs, both in the industry and in academia has been already commented upon by Dr. Paramita, but in the industry, has there been a rise, or are you expecting a rise post-COVID in this sector, life science and biochemistry? And
there is a rise in the pharma industry in the job market, but it's mostly kind of a contract-based position. So like they will be hiring a lot for the 6 months to 1 year tenure, and then maybe when the vaccine is out or the need is done, they might just lay you off. So there is kind of a mix of increase, but there is that fear of getting laid off. So you have to be really careful as to how you look into the job market.
Little tricky question. What do you expect post 4th November in the change in the political, economic, and job market scenario? November 4.
Post November 4th, if I followed the debate correctly, if the other person comes, you might see a surge in job market.
I appreciate.
Or if the current one comes, you might not see a good increase, but more increase in decrease in hire for the internationals.
I am totally agreeing to what you are saying. I really hope that there is a change of the status quo. Yes, Dr. Saha, are you ready? Can you kindly introduce us to some of the high-end equipments and their functions and all briefly, Dr. Rudra Saha? Are you there, Dr. Rudra Saha? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Could you introduce? Yes, quickly.
Yeah, I can move around with my
Yes,
laptop because
okay.
So basically behind me it's a -80 freezer where we keep all the strains or bacterial strains and other strains, also enzymes and other proteins which are vulnerable, and it's a for long time storage. And basically utility is that we can whenever we require certain things, we can just open the freeze and do the experiments. Otherwise we have to keep buying everything multiple times or asking for strains from other institutes. So it's very helpful. It's a costly equipment, but it is very helpful for storing enzymes and microorganisms. Then we have also a -20 freezer that probably all have, most common thing. For all kind of different kind of experiments, we do keep many chemicals in -20. We have both centrifuge, it's Eppendorf centrifuge, and it's a cold centrifuge. We basically spin down all molecular biology and other biochemical experiments required, and sometimes we need to do rotate things and precipitate molecules in cold temperature. So this one is essential for all laboratory. And then other type of centrifuges are also there. And then we have like a spectrophotometer, a double beam spectrophotometer that we use to analyze a lot of things. And so it's a double beam spectrophotometer. So for identifying nucleic acids or proteins or other things, we use these kinds of setup. Then we have phase contrast microscope, which is useful for live microscopy. So live cells can be, because most of the other microscope, the binocular microscope that used by other institutes, we also have binocular microscopes, and students can also use the phase contrast microscope where they can actually visualize live cells. So unlike binocular microscope where it's basically pre-made slides of dead cells, and it is attached to a camera which feeds into the laptop, and so we can visualize. Even you do not need to put your eyes here, you can directly visualize the images on the laptop, on your laptops. We have other bioinformatics setup in other room where there are a lot of computers. And we have like fluorescence spectrophotometer is also there in a different building. So I'm not moving. There are many labs are there. We have GC also, gas chromatography. We also have atomic absorption spectroscopy. And then this is a basic setup of laminar flow that our students use regularly. And all the others know that for where you are sterilized environment is required to do to grow strains and do other things. We have shaker. Basically, it's a temperature control shaker where you can grow your different cultures, either bacteria or other things, in a controlled environment. So you can use it to go down up to like 12 degrees centigrade and different types of environments. We have then thermal cyclers and many other things. So I think I should stop moving.
Thank you.
It will take a lot of time.
No issue. I know, and there are multiple buildings also. I am aware of it. You cannot walk around the full building. multiple buildings, but it's good. At least we had some glimpses of certain advanced technologies and infrastructure which are necessary today for understanding of biochemistry chemistry or microbiological experiments and all much better. Ladies and gentlemen, after you have heard the academicians, you have heard the sector skills council leaders, you have heard our friends from US. Now let's listen from leading industry of India in this sector. From Sun Pharma Industries, everyone knows about Sun Pharma Industries, Biocon, Sun Pharma, these are the leaders in this sector in this country. Even there are many others as well. As far as pharma is concerned, many others are there. So Sun Pharma Industries, we have Mr. Siddhartha Basu, Site HR Head from East and Northeast India, based out of Sikkim. So can I request Mr. Basu to put forth his ideas on what sort of skills you require, since you look after the HR recruitment and evolution of talent, development of talent, nurturing of talent in your company. What sort of skills you require or you are looking forward to when you recruit youngsters from the field of pharmacy, biotechnology, or any of the application areas of life sciences? Over to Mr. Siddharth, please. Mr. Siddharth, are you there?
Sir, Mr. Siddharth is not present, sir.
Okay, I was told that he is present. That's why I called him. But nevertheless, no problem. I will take up certain questions and I will ask at random the speakers who are present here to answer to the question. There are certain questions. Please also continue answering questions in the chat box for the speakers I'm saying. But there are some other questions that I've already got from those who have registered. So, what type of job opportunities can one get in private or government sector after completing BSc or MSc in microbiology, or particularly microbiology? Mr. Anirudh, would you like to help the person who has asked this question?
Just a minute. I'm connecting to Siddharth Basu, and just he contacted me due to some network issue in Sikkim.
Okay.
And Sikkim,
No
because
problem.
he is from Sikkim, and in Sikkim there is a little network issue.
No problem.
And even he represented the Sun Pharma with someone else, and Bikash Gogoi, and he is in his team, and he joined it just now.
Okay.
And he's
has he joined? Has he joined?
He has joined.
Okay,
Gogoi is
then
there.
So what is his name? Siddharth has joined, right?
Siddharth Bikash Gogoi, and he is in his team, and he's also talent acquisition team.
Fine. Mr. Bikash Gogoi from Sun Pharma has joined us in talent acquisition. It will be great to listen from him about what sort of skill set they require or they look at when they hire youngsters. Because would you come on video and please help us to understand that better? We have 365 participants in the Zoom just now, and we have a few hundred more on live Facebook and YouTube of Adamas University and ABP Education. Over to Mr. Vikas. Ranabrato, can you get Mr. Vikas?
Yes, sir. I have make him co-host.
Yeah. So no, you just focus on him. Mr. Vikas,
speaker did not start his video.
Okay. Mr. Vikas, if you could speak, if you could unmute and speak.
Okay, we can take few more questions, and I'm connecting to Bikash Gogoi.
It's okay. So let's not waste time. Let's not waste time.
Yeah.
Even if someone is not present, no problem. Let's go ahead with the program as such.
Right.
The question that I asked was, there is a participant who is asking about job opportunities both in government and private sector after microbiology, BSc or MSc microbiology. Mr. Anirudh, would you like to answer to that?
Yeah, right. So these for the microbiology, the student from microbiology, and he can join the life sciences industry, like especially biopharma industry, as a trainee officer. And there is a position is a trainee officer for the QC chemist, quality control chemist, or quality control microbiologist trainee officer. Also in R&D lab, is in pharmaceutical industry has divided into three parts: pharma, biopharma in R&D. And there is also position that in R&D is a trainees, officer trainees for the microbiologists and quality control chemist microbiology. So this position will be suitable for them. So if he pursue, especially this to pursue to enhance his skills in that particular domain, definitely there is an opportunity for him.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Anirudh. Dr. Rudra, microbiology is a preferred specialization in your school as well. And I can see a large number of youngsters joining both BSc and MSc. So do you find good opportunities post BSc, or would you suggest people to do MSc before getting into either higher education or job market? What is your suggestion?
Okay, so in general, what we have found traditionally, that most of the students who graduated bachelors in microbiology, they opt for higher studies. Like 90% students wants to opt for higher studies, and they do masters either in our institutes or other institutes. They pursue their masters, and 10%, approximately 10% of the students actually go for job at this point of time. And the 10, as I said, the 10% students, there are opportunities are there, and most of the students get job eventually absorbed. And if you look at the master's level, then we find that at least 50% of the students are asking for job, and they eventually get the jobs. But the trend is that most of the undergraduate students, even if they got jobs, sometimes it happens that they wants to the jobs and go for higher studies, in the perception that eventually with a higher degree, they are even if they get into the job, they will get a better position. Yeah.
So someone asked, I want to know from where I can learn advanced laboratory techniques on microbiology for my skill development. I think there was a demonstration just now, as you have seen, about laboratory techniques and all. And good university infrastructure would be great for you for that. There is another question, got a graduation degree in bioscience general. While it is not a professional course, I'm very much worried about my career. Can't figure out what to do now after a general graduation in bioscience. Dr. Rudro, any suggestion?
There are certain institutes offering general courses in bioscience or even in life science per se. And most of the students actually go for higher studies and do PhD, either in India or abroad, or basically they go for research line. But there are also opportunities are available even for general graduate students. And I'm sure the Mr. Onudho is known. There are lots of industry also that offer general graduates, general life science graduate, or even general graduates opportunities, and students can opt for that. But as I said, the awareness is not there. There are opportunities even for the general graduates. If they can acquire certain skills, they can go for industry jobs also.
Right. There is someone who is specifically asking the difference. I think Polash is asking the difference between biotechnology and microbiology, and particularly in both in the concept level and in context of getting job. Dr. Rudro.
Okay, so biotechnology is basically integration of multiple subjects, including microbiology. Microbiology is more specific towards microbes. It rotates around microbes, both pathogenic and non-pathogenic, beneficial, non-beneficial, harmful, and other things. But until, as it is an application-oriented subject, so for pathogenic bacteria, the aim would be develop therapeutics or vaccines or drugs that can be useful, or antimicrobials. And for beneficial bacteria, how those beneficial microorganisms can be utilized in the industry to process them to get the important enzymes that can be useful. So acquire various components from the beneficial bacteria, which we actually use in daily life. For example, milk industry or cheese industry that utilize lots of microorganisms. Right. And our microbiology students can actually get into those kinds of job if they want to.
Application of that.
Application oriented.
Food products. Yeah. Yes. Could you talk about BSc Botany? You know, Pranita is asking, Pranita Maiti, BSc Botany, post that, what should someone do? Studies or jobs, then what type, studies, then what education after BSc Botany? And there is also a question on BSc Zoology. Same question, similar question.
Okay, I think probably Monojit Devnath is more, I can definitely answer, but as Monojit Devnath is more actually in that particular subjects, he teaches botany and zoology, I think. Traditionally, as these are in general, what happens, botany, zoology or physiology, these are the mother subjects of biology. That was the initially, these the subjects were developed and students studied. And the more application oriented subjects, biochemistry, microbiology and biotechnology came later, which are more job oriented. Traditionally, botany or zoology students go for higher studies, do PhD, and then research kind of orientation or research kind of jobs, because the application was limited. But nowadays, obviously the institute or the university has to modify their syllabus. They have to look into the application side. Traditionally, botany, zoology are mostly only knowledge oriented.
Right.
So not application oriented. So if they change the syllabus, which would be probably difficult for public institutions, because of these are the mother subjects and basic subject they consider. So probably difficult, but anyway, still it can be, because all these are organisms. Organisms can be used to develop something.
Great, thank you. Dr. Monojit, could you take this issue?
Yes,
BSc Botany,
very
what were
shortly.
your-
Very
yeah.
shortly, I will collaborate with the Professor Shah's answer. I can say that 60% of the life-saving drugs coming from plants origin. So
Right.
identification of plants for as raw material is very required. As Professor Basu from New York also said that quality control. So raw material quality control is very required. So you have to identify it, as Professor Shah said, the mother subject. So likewise, a student can develop his or her knowledge in this mother subject as well as the hands-on with the help of Skill Development Council and their additional training with the MOOCs, which are nowadays around with universities and UGC. That will help them much. And the open learning course of their co-domain is required.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I quickly interject
Yes.
in 1 second? So I have worked in the pharma industry
Right.
before I became a faculty, and I know for a fact that plant biotechnology, students of botany or even plant biotechnologists are plant sciences, as they call it here. A lot of the times they are employed in the drug discovery departments of pharma industries. They basically identify compounds with therapeutic potential and then put it in their chemical library. All pharma industries have their own chemical libraries. And then there are chemists who will analyze those compounds and look at their, therapeutic ability. It could be an antibiotic, it could be an anti-cancer drug, all of those are possibilities.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. That's to the point.
Can I interject? Sorry.
Yes. Please.
On the similar thing, I got personally offered a job at Pfizer. I have a background in complete plant agriculture. Okay, so I did my PhD in botany from India. So you will easily get a job opportunity in the drug, and my company per se is working on the drug therapeutic side of the story. So you can easily get those opportunities depending on how you develop your skill sets over the years. So that's kind of my suggestion on this side of the story.
Great.
Whether it's MS or be a botany or zoology, make sure you develop these skill sets, like what identifies you.
Right. Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Vash, you are correct.
Dr. Rudro, there is a question on Btec Biotech and BSc Biotech. The difference between the two, and after doing Btec and BSc Biotech, what next? Should it be higher studies, or there can be industry focused jobs as well?
Okay, so it's a very, very pertinent questions. Most of the students ask these questions, and whether there is a difference between Btec Biotechnology and BSc Biotechnology. It depends on the institution. I must say that it depends on the institution. Some institutions say that there is no difference. It is a 4-year course where only the first year is engineering, and rest, if you look at the rest of the courses, 3 years, is exactly what the BSc is. But it should not be the idea of Btec and BSc in biotechnology. That's a completely wrong notion. I don't know if certain institutes doing that, it's actually harming students. So what we do here, we completely basically separate these two branches. where Btec Biotechnology is more focused on a job oriented. We expect that all students who study Btec Biotechnology will go for a job after graduation.
Right.
So the entire course structure is constructed, developed in such a way, it's not only the first years, second, third, fourth, all courses are job oriented, where there are, if as students are, most of the students go for pharmaceutical or medical industry. So those kinds of papers are there: pharmaceutical biotechnology, quality assurance, quality control, regulatory affairs, GMP and good manufacturing practices. So which actually required, because if a particular student is going to face the interview, in the interview they're going to ask this kind of questions. So if you keep it's like a science subject, eventually they won't be able to clear their interview. So we focused Btec Biotechnology subject course more industry oriented, where the BSc Biotechnology is more research oriented, where
Right.
we expect the students will go for masters and higher degrees there.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Arpita is asking, there is this, after BSc microbiology, can someone shift to biotechnology MSc biotechnology? Is it possible?
Absolutely.
Can
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
can I interject? So,
Yeah, please. Anyone.
I did my BS in microbiology back in 2004. So, and I did my master's in genetics from Calcutta University. So you can easily ship streams from microbiology to biotechnology or genetics. So there is always a big possibility of doing that based on the exams that you can clear.
Yes.
So there is someone who is already doing research. He's a JRF, and he's asking, Shubhajit Datto, I suppose. He's asking, why are people shifting from PhD to industry more, from research after research to industry? Is it the lure of the corporate job, or lack of jobs in academia, or more satisfaction in applied field? What exactly? Anyone for that matter?
I would like to comment on
Yeah,
that.
please.
If possible.
Yeah.
I am a proper, I am completely a disponent of this same thing, because I did my PhD and I wanted to be an assistant professor, no job, so you have to go to the industry. So if you want to go to the industry, it will have more job opportunities for you to go and look for jobs in the industry rather than academia. So that's why people are more lured to the industry, and you'll have more job skills, more job satisfaction, and less stress of research.
Great.
I would like to also add to that.
Yes.
I mean, I think one of the reasons my first job right after I graduated my PhD was also an industry job. I had applied to both industry and academia. Eventually, I ended up getting both, but I had more job offers from the industry than academia, and the industry jobs came first. Offers came sooner than academia. Academia in general, I think, works slower, and the number of jobs are less compared to the number of jobs available in the industry. That is one reason. In the US scenario, I think the visa situation, because of the number of jobs and the need, there is a higher chance of getting a visa sponsorship in a industry job than academia. My other reason was industry gave me a job without a postdoc. In academia, it is hard to get a job without a postdoc. I presume that would be the other reason.
Okay, that's great. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot take all questions. It's already 2.5 hours over. We have only 5 minutes left. The gentleman from the Talent Acquisition Division of Sun Pharma, Mr. Vikas, has now joined us. I'd request him to take the last 5 minutes and speak about how do you look at talent acquisition in the current situation post-COVID, and what are the skill sets you look at youngsters. Do you look at post-graduation or graduation or higher education, or in general on these? If you could speak for the next 5 minutes, Mr. Vikas from Sun Pharma.
Hi everyone, I am Vikas. I'm from Sun Pharma. Siddharth sir got busy in some meeting, so I am representing him right now. So am I audible?
You're audible, but if there is no one else,
Hello.
you can take the, if you can take the mask off. If there is no one else around you, then you can take the mask off. We can listen to you better.
Yeah. So Yes, right now I'm inside a cabin, so I can speak.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, yeah, firstly, I would like to say that thanks for giving me this opportunity to talk to you all. And it's really nice having such a good conversation. And yeah, definitely, when we used to hire candidates for mainly for candidates as an apprentice, and the one who pursue or who has completed their MSc and in chemistry biotechnology is to directly hire them as a trainee officer in quality department. And for to hire apprentices, it's like an opportunity where they can learn and they can understand how actually industry works, how the things they studied in their curriculum or the things they have studied in their whole course of 4 years. That theoretical thing they can see and do it in practical manner in our organization. So definitely they used to get exposure to all the areas, and it's really nice to hire apprentices and as well as trainee officers in our organization. So actually, I would like to know from if any participants, students participants are there. So I would like to know what are their expectations, what they think, what are the what works they do here, and how they can get recruited in Sun Pharma. If any participants can ask questions regarding all this, then definitely I would love to answer all those.
Okay. No, there is no time because I'm sorry, 5:30 has to be ended. It's 5:28 now. So there is one gentleman who
Okay.
Just a minute. There's one gentleman who asked this question on MSc microbiology. Saurav has asked, post MSc microbiology, what sort of careers are there? Both because you can also speak about it, or anyone else among the speakers, among the panelists. After MSc microbiology,
Yes.
what sort of careers?
Completing your MSc Pharma, we used to directly hire them as a training officer in quality control department, where they can learn everything, they can excel. As we have some section like microbiology. So in that section, the MSc biotechnology people are very much get exposure in that area. So definitely they can try in Sun Pharma. Okay. And yeah.
Okay, thank you. I would just request everyone to take 30 seconds for your closing comments. We just have 1 to 2 minutes. So starting from Mr. Anirudh, your closing comments from the LSSL SSSDC, what suggestions would you have for the youngsters? Closing comments.
So my suggestion to youngsters and the academia, and on behalf of the councils, to supplement my previous speech and address to the gatherings, we have launched in the world first time virtual lab, the virtual manufacturing plant for the academia. And so if academia come forward to launch these virtual manufacturing plant, so that industry, that candidates can get the industry exposure in their academia. So thank you so much. And we are welcoming the academia and also the student to develop their skills in this pharmaceutical industry post COVID-19. Thank you.
That's a very good idea, sir. Virtual labs would really help because physical labs, there are limitations, and post-COVID, there are also physical distancing norms. That would really help. Dr. Manojit, thank you for the program and suggesting the program. Any closing comment from you?
Yes.
Dr. Manojit
I give a call to our students that change your mindset, go for domain and co-domain skill development with yourself, with your institution, as well as Skill India mission, and develop your virtual lab in your own by study, and with we know the techniques how to, but not for the high end,
right,
but the grassroots level.
Yes,
so that is my call.
Right. Virtual labs, personal level also to develop. Thank you. Dr. Paramita Bose, please.
Thank you so much for asking me to be here. It was very, very nice to be part of this. My closing comments, my suggestions to current students would be that instead of waiting, I'm seeing a lot of questions here too. Instead of waiting for your institution to give you the opportunity, take your own initiative, reach out to people you know in the industry, reach out to Anirudh's department. That's a wonderful opportunity, and see what you can do. You might know people who work in the industry. Reach out to them. Reach out to local research institutes during your summer vacation and get internships. So build your CV. That's in your hands.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. Build up your CV. That's in your hand. Dr. Supratim Basu, thank you for a peek into how to get jobs and survive in US. So your closing comments, Dr. Basu.
Thank you for this opportunity to address the students and the respective committee members. So my comment is develop your soft skill sets, go for networking, and develop your English proficiency. That's
Great.
most important.
Thank you. Dr. Rudra Shah. The last word is yours, Dr. Rudra Shah. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm there. So when I would suggest that when a student is going to choose institutions or university where they are going to study, particularly for application oriented subject, they should actually visit the labs, talk to the faculty members. That is very important, and see what they are actually using, going to do, and then spend their 3 to 4 years there. So if there is nothing there, you should opt out from that institute.
Get out
Great.
of your shells.
Yeah.
I would like to thank you, Professor Ujjwal K. Chaudhary.
Thank you. Thank you.
From all of us to moderate this session and his continuous inspiration to build up this program, apart from my and Anirudh's effort, and to Professor Shah and the other speakers who are there with our invitation too. And I think in future we will be there together for our young generations.
Yes, surely.
Absolutely.
So,
Thank you all the dignitaries for share with us very insightful sessions. And thank you so much.
Right. Mr. Anirudh has shared his number and email ID earlier. Many people have noted, and it would be great if the Sector Skills Council of Life Science and the different academic institutes develop their ties and develop the skill sets of their students. And thank you, Dr. Rudra Shah, for walking around with your laptop, literally showing the different machinery and equipments and their performance and their functionalities. And thank you, the lady and the gentleman from US. So from 4 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock in the morning, hats off to you. I do not know whether if an American university invites me at 4 o'clock in my morning, if I will be there.
Whether I will be.
And thank you, Ananda Bajar Patrika, for organizing and this program and supporting us in this. We'll see a report of Ananda Bajar program on the ABP Education portal within a few hours of this program. A full detailed report will be there. And I request the host, Ranabrata Chando, to save the entire recording of this session and later on coordinate with Dr. Manojit Debnath and share the session recording with him, who can share it with others, including Mr. Anirudh as well. So that's all. It was a pleasure listening to you all. My job was not to add to the debate, but actually raise the debate and raise the different issues that the youngsters were posing. I understand that several people's queries could not be answered, but that is what happens. And it was a very active audience. Mind you, I do not know, by now it's more than 300 plus comments, or I think 350 plus comments and questions in the chat box. And thank you, Dr. Bose and Dr. Bose from US for answering several questions alongside. I have been seeing Supratim Bose and Paramita Bose answering several questions. Thank you for that. With that,
thank you, Professor Ujjwal K. Chaudhary, to moderate the entire event and for your steerheading with all these today's guests and dignitaries. Thank you so much.
Right.
Thank you so much. I agree. It was a wonderful session. Thanks for inviting me. I hope you do this more in future. I hope when the reason I think this is so good is I wish we had this when we were students.
Right.
You will.
Thank you. This is
thank you again from my side, and I would really appreciate Dr. Shah's effort in showing his lab. I wish I had that lab in my.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah. By academic standards in India, it's really a good lab, and he has only shown 20 or 25% of the whole lab. The
Right.
remaining percentage he could not show. Thank you. And Aniruddha ji, please visit the campus. You are welcome. Dr.
Sure, I'm
Manojit.
sure I'll coming to Kolkata. It's very soon. And so
Well,
I'll
please
definitely
visit us.
yeah,
Dr.
right.
Manojit, you are very
Yes.
much welcome to come to campus.
Definitely, I will be there with my students and to collaborate and to develop more.
Absolutely.
Please do, sir. Please do, sir. Thank you.
As an
Bye-bye.
academician, I'm always happy to collaborate with Dr. Shahar, Monojit, anybody who's willing to. I just wanted to put it out there. Thank you.
Surely,
Actually,
surely. you're so kind.
networking is required. Networking is the much more thing.
Surely. And this program helps in that.
Yes,
Indeed.
definitely, definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye bye.